Good evening, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Let me first of all start by greeting you. Good evening, Sat Sri Akal, Assalamu Alaikum, and all the very best this evening. I believe yesterday was a Maha Puja, the national holiday of Thailand. I'd like to greet all our Thai friends, all those Buddhist friends who are here on that auspicious occasion. So today's function, the Globality Foundation Award function, is on the subject of globalization of Indian industries and world peace. Globalization, what does it mean? To me, it means international integration. This is done through opening of world trade, development of advanced means of communication, internationalization of financial markets, growing importance of multinational corporations, population migrations, and increased mobility of persons, goods, capital, data, and ideas. It is a process through which diverse world is unified into a single society. In India, we believe in the concept of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. The entire world is our family. Before liberalization in India, till 1990s, India was growing at what is called the Hindu rate of growth, which means 2.5 to 3%. It grew up to 9% in 2010, though it has fallen to the, in the recent past, affected again by a global phenomenon. GDP is nearing $2 trillion, making India as the fourth largest economy of the world. Foreign exchange reserves in India have swelled to $290 billion. Prominent Indian companies going global and acquiring assets include ONGC, Mittal Steel, Reliance Industries, Tata Motors, Infosys, and Ranbaxy, etc. But let us understand the concept of what is the subject, globalization. I'm not an economist, and so I won't be bothering you with many high-flown economic terms, but let me understand what exactly I mean by this particular concept. And I'll start by saying that the Japanese save a lot. They do not spend much. Also, Japan exports far more than it imports. It has an annual trade surplus of over 100 billion. Yet Japanese economy is considered weak, even collapsing. Americans save little. Also, the US imports more than it exports. It has an annual trade deficit of over $400 billion. And yet, the American economy is considered strong and trusted to get stronger. But where do Americans get money to spend? They borrow from Japan, they borrow from China, and even India. Virtually others save for US to spend. Global savings are mostly invested in US in dollars. India itself keeps its foreign currency assets of over $50 billion in US securities. China has sunk trillions of dollars in US securities. Japan's stakes in US securities is in many billion dollars. What is the result? The US has taken over $5 billion from the world, so as the world saves for the US, Americans spend freely. Today, to keep the US consumption going, that is for the US economy to work, other countries have to remit $180 billion every quarter, which is $2 billion a day, to the United States. A Chinese economist asked a neat question: who has invested more, US in China or China in US? The US has invested in China less than half of what China has invested in the US. The same is the case with India. You'll be surprised. We have invested in US over $50 billion, but the US has invested less than $20 billion in India. Why the world is after the US? The secret lies in American spending, that they hardly save. In fact, they use their credit cards to spend their future income. that the US spend is what makes it attractive to export to the US. So US exports more than what it exports every year after year. The result is, the world is dependent on US consumption for its growth. By its deepening culture of consumption, the US has habituated the world to feed on US consumption. But as the US needs money to finance its consumption, the world provides the money. It's like a shopkeeper providing the money to a customer so that the customer keeps buying from the shop. It is the customer. If the customer will not buy, the shops won't have business unless the shopkeeper funds himself. The US is like the lucky customer and the world is like the helpless shopkeeper financier. Who is America's biggest shopkeeper financier? Japan, of course. And yet, it's Japan which is regarded as weak. Modern economists complain that Japanese do not spend so that they do not grow. To force the Japanese to spend, the Japanese government exerted itself, reduced the saving rates, even changed the savers. Even then the Japanese did not spend. Habits don't change even with taxes, do they? Their traditional postal saving alone is over 1.2 trillion, or 3 times the GDP of India. Thus, savings were far from being strength of Japan has become its pain. What is the lesson in this? That is, a nation cannot grow unless the people spend, not save. Not just spend, but borrow and spend. Dr. Jagdish Bhagwati, the famous Indian-born economist in the US, told Indian Prime Minister Manmohan Singh some time back that Indians wastefully save. Ask them to spend on imported cars and seriously even on cosmetics. This will put India on a growth curve. This is one of the reasons for multinational companies coming down to India, seeing the consumer spending. Saving is sin, spending is virtue. But before you follow this new neo-economics, get some fools to save so that you can borrow from them and spend. This is what I felt I ought to give a message to you this evening, even though I'm not an economist by profession. This is an occasion when quite a number of prominent people who are here, who are leaders in their economy, are present here, and their role in what they are doing to promote the societies in which they work, they need to be acknowledged. They need to be told that even though they have done what they have done is commendable, but they have to carry back the message to the people